Supporting your local news, Airpark Canterbury, Logistics Drive and Parking Island off Rustley Road.
Bariz and Saba, it's nice to see you both. Thank you very much for your time.
It's good to be with you, Chris.
After watching this documentary, I have to say it's probably one of the most powerful documentaries I've seen in a very, very long time, because every person that you speak to in Afghanistan has a powerful story to tell, and everything they say, every quote they say, everything they deliver is so powerful. Did you realise how powerful this was going to be, this experience, or did it become clear as you were filming that all these people have got a story to tell?
After March 15 happened and we came up with this idea of establishing 51 micro businesses, we knew then that we had something special, because something like this hadn't been done before, especially after a tragedy such as March 15 and the taking of 51 lives. And then we were reassured when we were in Afghanistan, and we were sitting in front of these people that were so powerful, their stories were so powerful. And we saw the transition from, struggling and lacking hope, I would say, to a point where the trajectory of their family's life has been completely changed. And that's when we knew we had something special, and we're pleased that we're able to capture it and bring it back here for New Zealand to witness.
It is captured so beautifully, and every person you spoke to had so many layers to what they were all about. I mean, you could see, as you pointed out in the documentary, the sadness in their eyes, the fact that they'd been through so much, yet they still were reasonably hopeful about their future.
I think this is what we, when March 15 happened, it was a year that I was in New Zealand. And before coming to New Zealand, I used to do this, document people in Kabul, mostly those who were on the streets, talking about the experience during the war. And to me, that was something very empowering, watching them very hopeful, even though they have gone through so much difficulties in their life. And they were showing very much hope and for life. So it really motivated me during different part of my life as I was going through difficulties. I was going back to my diary and reading those stories that I documented in Kabul. So when we were after March 15, we were aiming about this project. One of the things that I personally wanted to do was, to bring back the impact, the energy that was creating in Kabul, to bring back in New Zealand, so people in here also could experience that energy that I was feeling, basically.
Yeah, there's energy and there's hope, despite the fact of so many years of so much war, and yet there is a sense of optimism, which I found remarkable. The other thing I found remarkable is in this film, a man described himself as an internal refugee. It's something I haven't heard before, but why would I? And it was such a powerful statement. What did you take away from that, and how did that shape your understanding of their situation, Bariz?
Look, we knew that the U.S. had invaded Afghanistan in 2001 in their fight against the Taliban. And so many of the countryside we experienced through their internal refugee stories, they had experienced bombings, drone strikes, and indiscriminate bombing. And so they're afraid to actually remain in their countryside villages, and they would move to the more capital city, like, for example, Kabul, very small area, but that had over 8 million people. Many of them were internal refugees. So that to us was a bit, we kind of knew that would be the case, if we're being honest, just because we had been following the news and how Afghanistan was being treated, especially the countryside.
Yeah, for me, to be honest, I was not reading as much as I would have about those areas. We were mostly reading about the blasts that were happening from, the people that were against the government. They were doing suicidal bombing attacks among the cities, among the different populated places, and we were just hearing about those that were against the government and fighting basically against the US and NATO in Afghanistan. So when I in the ground, as Bariz said, we were interviewing them. To me personally, it was a bit shock when they were saying that our homes were getting bombed, our farms were getting bombed with in the middle of night. We were like, "How do you feel in like? Do you feel safe in Kabul?" One of our questions was this: "Do you feel safe in Kabul?" And they were responding like, "What do you mean? Kabul is so safe?" Because they came from a place that they were experiencing continuous bombing. For them, Kabul was safe.
And it wasn't televised internationally as much as it should have been.
Yeah.
That's why many people didn't actually know about it. We knew because me personally and my family, because we had people in certain areas that would feed back to us. But the media per se was only focused on the suicide bombing side of things and not on the drone strikes and the indiscriminate bombing that was taking place.
Yeah. So basically, it was not focused on the side that why would somebody wear a bomb jacket and blow themselves in pieces? Let's talk about that. Maybe their homes are being destroyed, their families are being killed. So they don't have anything that now to defend themselves, or just they see that as a defense force. And it was a lot of suicide bombings, to be honest, at that time. And we were like, why? These people are killing themselves among the cities, basically.
Isn't it terrible? Because they've lost all hope, and that's their reality. I want to also discuss one of the small micro businesses that I thought could have worked well. I think it did initially, and that was the LPG micro business you featured, and it felt real. It felt like a real lifeline for people, knowing that so many people in Kabul face winter without any heating. And I thought to myself, that in itself is incredible.
Yes, a large population of people, they do, because they are living day to day. Many resort to burning of rubber to stay warm. Some of the houses we went to, again, internal refugee homes that were in camps, they would burn even shoes. Some families we saw, they were burning shoes to keep their babies warm. And the amount of toxins that's releasing, and the babies, inhaling that, but they didn't have a choice. It was either that or, the intense cold in the winter of Kabul.
It was intense cold, yeah, intense.
Yeah, but the LPG gas business was a really, it was a hit, because in Jalalabad as well, where we went, that was something that we helped people with as well. And it's not only for heating, it's for cooking as well. And they could, sell it to other people.
The other thing that proved to be a hit, my understanding was, and I think we need these in Christchurch, is the Karachis in Kabul. By the way, how common are they? I was fascinated to see them, and I was surprised we don't have them in New Zealand. I think they're a great business model.
Yeah, no, very common, very common. If you go on a main street in Kabul, sides of the roads would have Karachis, but they would be fixed there permanently. The Karachis that we were helping would be people who would go from place to place, depending on where it was best selling at that time. And over 30 of our recipients actually selected the Karachi, because the Karachi that we're supporting them with was actually the best that you could get in Kabul, because we would go to the best carpenter and get the best wood, and it would last them 10, 15 years, that one Karachi. So it really worked out for most of them. But then obviously...
COVID. What an amazing business model. I quite like the idea and some of the colours, although I had a bit of a chuckle when I think one of the owners, I think he painted it a colour that was a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, it wasn't an ugly colour, wasn't it a bright blue or something, but I quite liked it. Wasn't that bad. What colour was it? Was it blue?
I think it was aqua blue, one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if in the camera the color came... It was aqua blue, I think.
Yeah, we weren't expecting that at all. That was our first. It was very anticlimactic.
Well, no. When you've got blue paint, I say use it. Look, another powerful thing for me in this film, guys, was in the film a child is asked what gives you hope. I think, Saba, you asked that question to him. And his response, I think, words to the effect was, growing up.
Yeah.
And there was a reason why he said that, wasn't there?
Yes. And that child that we are talking about, that child was internal refugee. And for him, like, his fear was like, am I going to be alive? Because he experienced intense war in their village. And in Kabul, there was happening on and off blasts, but in their villages, there was continuous blasts, lead them to left everything behind and become internal refugee. So for me, that was so powerful statement from a young child, that he was that's my hope for my future, that I want to grow, I want to live, basically. And yeah.
Because most people might say, I want to be a fireman or a police person or what have you. And his statement was he at least wants to live a life because it could be over with a bombing. It was so, so powerful. When you went to Afghanistan, I mean, both of you were probably still processing the pain of March 15, but as you say in the film, but in the film you meet a woman who gave you perspective. Bariz, just briefly explain her situation, because once again, another incredibly powerful moment in that film.
Yeah, so the person we were referring to was Marzia, and she was a widow, 6 children, and her husband had died in a bombing in a masjid as well. So her story was very similar to the story of some of the shuhada here, in terms of being a widow. And so Saba and I connected with her story, and that was during the first 2 or 3 weeks of our trip there, and we're finding our experience very challenging because the things that we had set out for ourselves, the milestones, we quickly realized that it's not going to be as easy as we thought it was going to be to achieve. And so we were a little bit depressed, to be honest with you, knowing that we had this huge feat to deliver, and we're not going to be able to do it. And then we met Marzia, and she was in a tough situation, living in a very small home, very cold, damp as well. She took care of the house beautifully, though, and the love that she had for her children, the hope that she had for their future, and the resilience that she showed in general, to us just seemed like, man, what are we complaining about? Like, we've got a project, let's get on with it and get it done.
As Bariz said, like, we were complaining for our hardship during the project procedure, and when we watch her, she was going through like a lot of difficulties. I can't even imagine myself in her shoes. And she was like standing very strong and giving us interview, and very hopeful, very positive. And we were like,
we need to bring the story back to New Zealand.
Well, as I text you, as I text you guys after watching the documentary, I thought to myself, I'm not complaining about anything ever again. I'm not complaining about the cold meal I got down the road or what have you. There's no, I mean, and I really hope that this is a film that everybody sees, because whether we like it or not, I really think it puts life in perspective. Speaking of that, Saba, what do you want people to take away after watching your documentary? What's the most important thing that you want the audience to take away from this?
When we were creating this basically project, this was one of the things that we were telling people that we were asking funding from. We were asking them that this impact is not going to just gonna happen in Afghanistan. We will bring back this impact to New Zealand. By that we mean the energy that's going to be created in Afghanistan. When you watch and go through the experience from the beginning to the end, it gives you the feeling that is priceless. You can't get that feeling anywhere but from something like this. And we were like, we want others also to experience that, the beauty, the amazing like feeling that you get by helping others. It's not just you helping them, you are helping yourself, when you actually helping somebody. So we wanted to show others that when they see this documentary, they feel the same thing that we feel. They go through the same journey that we went, and we are very hopeful because this is not just a movie for entertainment. This is a movie, beyond that, and this is a movie made from New Zealanders, and we want them to now the way they supported this journey, and we want them now to support us by watching this and hopefully get the feeling that we felt during the project.
Well, it's an incredibly deep and powerful feeling, that's for sure. That's what I experienced after watching it. I'm really looking forward to seeing it again at the Christchurch premiere on the big screen. There's always something different to see when you see it on a bigger screen. It's not over for you guys in terms of your filmmaking. I know, Bariz, you've also got another project that's on the go. Give us a bit of a sneak preview of that.
Yeah, Saba and I have been thinking about this quite hard. What are we going to do after this? And for us, the main thing that we want to focus on is the justice system in New Zealand currently. The way it is, where a person who has been to prison and has had a custodial sentence, they can never have their record cleared. And we just feel like there's such a gap in society at the moment because there's so much potential in prisons. And I mean that by saying that there are first-time offenders that go into prison who don't have hope and who give up on society, and society gives up on them. And we lose that potential that they have. We have entrepreneurs, innovators in prisons, and we can really, really give them hope by allowing them, after a period of time, if they haven't committed a crime, let's say within 7 years, and they come out, and we allow them to clear their record. Apart from a few, crimes that we as a society deem that they should forever be held accountable, we have to give these young people hope. And Saba and I are going to cover my story of how I came out of prison, and also other people who have gone the other route, where they chose the life where they gave up on society and they became harsh criminals that are costing our country billions of dollars annually. And so we want to show that divergence. I had hope. I took the other side. Someone who doesn't have hope, what side do they take?
And I want you to also, how did you get that hope, how?
Yeah, for me, the hope was the fact that I could come out of prison and have my record cleared. Someone had told me that within 7 years, if I came out of prison, I didn't commit a crime, I'd have my record cleared. And so I went into prison with that hope in mind, and I experienced situations where I could have chosen to give in and take that other route, fights that I could have got into that could have extended my stay, guards that were being discriminatory to me, and I could have latched out, and that would have changed my trajectory as well. But I kept that hope. I was like, no, I'm going to get out, I'm going to have my record cleared, and I'm never coming back to this place again. But people aren't actually given that choice. They're branded for a criminal. They're branded as a criminal for the rest of their life for something they did when they had just turned 18. Which doesn't make sense to me.
And also, about crime, there's this different crimes, and of course there are crimes that are very intense and that needs to be acknowledged till they're alive. But there are crimes that are not even that big, but it's because that the law has made that way, and the people that living in the society continuously label them as that. And I'd more encourage them to go to the way that is basically they have made their brain that the society is not accepting me, not giving me respect. So there's no point to, basically
redeem themselves. Yeah.
Try,
Yeah.
And they lose
So
all
it's
hope.
really-
So what's the point of being a good person when nobody else around you ever wants to see that?
Yeah, 100%. And in 2004, a clean slate scheme was introduced where people who had, let's say, like drink driving records, they could have that cleared. It wasn't a custodial sentence, but it was still a record, and they could have that cleared. And when that was introduced, that bill, over 500,000 New Zealanders' lives changed because they could have that record cleared, and they no longer had to declare it everywhere they went. Every international flight they catch, they didn't have to declare that they had a drink driving offense, right? So the amount of people's lives that we can change in New Zealand by introducing something like this, where a person can have their record cleared, is going to make a huge difference to our society. It really is, and it's going to solve some of the problems that we have right now with, people committing crime over and over again, and first-time offenders going to prison within 2 years. Over 60% of first-time offenders, which is crazy.
Yeah, like
Prison is not a beautiful place. Prison is not a nice place. Why would someone choose to go back to a place like that?
Yeah.
It's because they don't have hope. Society doesn't give them hope.
I agree. And what's great, and you touch on this in the documentary, Project 51, is that you managed to change your path, or that word I always hate using, journey, yet to something far more positive. And here you are now talking about it. I could talk to you guys for a long time. I want to say congratulations on this film. I hope many people see it, and let's keep in touch. And thank you so much for your time. We got there in the end after a few false starts, but it's been really lovely to speak with you both.
We look forward to having you at the premiere, Chris. Take care.